shot coming back. Jose Ramirez, home run number 28.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Guardians of the CLE podcast. I'm your host, Max Goldstein, joined as always by my co-host, Mel Kirby. Tonight, we're going to be previewing the right field position here, as well as giving you guys some updates on the pending MLB lockout, some player updates, and some possible trades or free agent signings for the upcoming season. But before we start, just wanted to run some things by you. We have started our sponsorship program here on the podcast. So come grow with us at Mlb Media. And with an affordable sponsorship package, we cover all of the Cleveland sports: Guardians, Browns, Cavs, Future of the Guardians of the Land. That's our podcast by Kevin Sledge, covering our minor league systems, as well as our brand new podcast Mic Drop, which covers all things sports, not just Cleveland, as well as some wrestling coming up soon. So podcasts are available on all of the popular platforms: Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, and more. And we've just started, obviously, in November, so we're quick going with you guys here. We average 150 downloads per month. Per audio broadcast, 450 plus views on our written content as well. And things are always trending upwards with us as well. So only good things to come ahead. So if you guys are interested in joining on our sponsorship package here, shoot us a message over Twitter, follow us on Mlb Media, and we can get something set up here pretty quick with you guys. But I wanted to pass it off to my co-host here, Mel. She's going to give you guys an update on the MLB lockout. So what have we learned today here, Mel?
So just kind of an update on kind of what's been playing out over the last couple of meetings. So the sides have agreed on three things after their in-person meeting last week. That was the universal DH. Top-level free agents will no longer be tied to draft pick compensation, and the playoff will expand. There still just remains a question of how many teams is it going to expand to. The league wants 14, the players want 12. And then arbitration and revenue continue to be the issues, and they remain far apart on specific dollar amounts. So the league and the players met again today on Tuesday. And the meeting lasted about 90 minutes. It was said to be, kind of angry. The players are the ones here. It's important to make this distinction too, because as I scroll Twitter, I see a lot of the millionaires versus billionaires argument, right? And it's important to know that most players aren't millionaires. I was actually reading a stat today that said only 68% of the players protected by the Players Association make over $1 million. And before making their debut, the minor league salary is $45,000. And let's not talk about the minor league players' living conditions, which, obviously is becoming more of an issue, as it should lately. So that's like a big point of the players, is they want to get these younger guys paid earlier. Because with the service time manipulation and free agency the way it is now, players aren't hitting free agency until they're almost 30 years old, which a lot of the players consider that to be, kind of at the end of your prime, leaving your prime. And another issue the players are having is they're not seeing as much of the revenue that they're creating. Without the players, there is no revenue for the teams, right? But the teams, the owners in the league continue to be, shall we say, a little greedy with that money, and they're not willing to give much of that back to the players. So revenues increased every year except for the COVID shortened 2020, which is to be expected. And players around the league, payrolls are dropping nearly 5%. So it's like teams are getting cheaper, but they're getting more money in. So the players are like, hey, rightfully so, we'd like a little more of this. Like, what can we do about revenue sharing? And the way it's seeming is the players are going in, kind of like, all right, we'll drop some of these arbitration issues. We'll kind of scale back on this. And basically MLB is just sitting there like, all right, well, we're not really budging on anything. And that's kind of the issue here. is the league has this, cushy little, kind of like a safe deposit. They have money set aside for something like this. Whereas, these players love the game and this is their livelihood. Just like any of us go to work every day, that's how they make their money. So I think baseball's starting to see like, if we just hold out, they need the games more than we do. We can threaten them, by risking regular season games. And, the players once again are eventually going to have to cave. And it doesn't seem like they're really willing to do that again. So I don't know, Max. I don't know which side's going to budge here. It's not looking good though for spring training.
It's kind of just a game of wait and see. Obviously, some impatience is growing amongst the fans, amongst the players, everybody involved, really, because spring season should be quickly approaching, and right now that's not the way it looks. And obviously, we don't want any of the season in jeopardy. It's definitely been a long off season, certainly for our Guardians here, but. Obviously we're eager to see more updates as the weeks go on. Hopefully they can come to a resolution here soon enough and we can get the ball rolling on the season. But while we wait, obviously we have this cute little section of our podcast here where we like updating you guys on what our players are doing, throughout the world, wherever they are in their off season while they quickly await this upcoming 2022 campaign. But we have our player updates here. Aaron Savali celebrated 8 years with his fiance. A big congratulations to him. He visited some key spots of their relationship, and he was also seen posting, playing with his dog in the snow during that huge storm we had a couple weeks back over in Massachusetts. But Jose Ramirez was also spotted out in the Dominican Republic with a couple friends. A blast from the past here. A little update on Danny Salazar, a name we haven't heard in quite some time. He's been promoting some of his music as well as some acting work that he's been working on back at home, which is obviously, Melanie, pretty interesting to say the least here, but says he needs to get back to work here pretty soon. But Zach Plesac, he's in Scottsdale, Arizona, training to get ready for the upcoming season, one step closer to Goodyear, hopefully. And then lastly, our future guy in right field, which we will be speaking about later on tonight, George Valera. He was out jet skiing in the DR as well. So obviously a hot spot here in the winter. Nice little play on words there, but popular spot for the players to vacation there. But Mel, why don't you give us a little bit more about what these guys are doing?
Well, it's interesting too, because with, when this lockout hit, we still have like a whole half of the off season we have to get through. So I know we talk about a lot of these guys, on the 40-man roster, and you have to wonder how different is this going to look, and if I don't even know how they're going to get it in that fast, but I know the Guardians have like 17 infielders on the roster right now. Like they were kind of banking on making some trades and making some things happen. So I know the guys we talked about on this list tonight, are all pretty set on the 40-man roster, besides Danny Salazar. Of course, he's long gone from the 40-man roster. But Brian Rocchio, my guy, he's also in Florida training now. So he's also, he's back in the United States. He's ready to go. But with him being on the 40-man roster, he's also not able to participate in the minor league season until the CBA is resolved. The minor league season will go on, but anybody who is on a 40-man roster of a major league team is unable to, train at any of the facilities or participate in any minor league games. So, we have to think about all the development time that's being wasted. These guys all missed 2020. Now they're risking 2021, 2022 starting late. It's just a bummer, man. There's so much good young talent in baseball right now. A guy we're going to talk about tonight too. And it's like, you just hate to see any of this time wasted. We're seeing like some greats playing the game right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we can't repeat it enough how much we want baseball back, especially here in Cleveland. Snow is only falling more and more. So
makes you really miss it.
Yeah, the Browns had a disappointing season. The Cavs are giving us a little bit of life right now, so they're exciting to watch. But it's this time of year where everybody kind of finds that zone where We're still far away from the playoffs in the NBA, but the NFL season is well and done with. So, it's only about time we start getting back to the diamond. So it's
this is like the countdown to pitchers and catchers. The calendar hits February. You're like, this month it may only be pitchers and catchers, but at least they're coming. Yeah. Now it's just that unknown. So
yeah, hopefully it starts much sooner than later. But on to what we're supposed to be covering tonight, the right field position for the Cleveland Guardians in their upcoming season. So last year we kind of didn't see the production, obviously, Mel, that we wanted to out of this position. Josh Naylor started the year in right field. He was hitting .253, he had 7 home runs, 21 RBIs, and 233 at bats before obviously that devastating leg injury. Gruesome to watch. So, but yeah, he suffered that late in June, which ended his season early. So after Naylor's leg injury, we got to see little spurts of Miles Straw, who we acquired, late in July. But once we moved him off to center field, Bradley Zimmer came into the mix, became the primary right fielder, and obviously he's as streaky as they come. So he had the bursts of the powers mixed with a ton of Ks. So a bunch of weak at bats, but Mel, what should we expect out of the right field position this year? Obviously, Josh Naylor's been rehabbing. Hopefully Bradley Zimmer has been working on his approach at the plate, but what's that, X factor that we're going to see out there this year?
So I think one of the biggest things when it comes to right field is just, you talked about Josh Naylor rehabbing that leg. And I think a big part of it is going to be, is his leg going to hold up well enough for him to play a decent right field? I mean, luckily, you mentioned Miles Straw. Luckily, we have him in center field, so he can cover a ton of ground. So you wouldn't really need Naylor to do much. As we talked about in the first base episode, if you haven't listened to that, you can go back after this and check it out. He could be another option with Bobby Bradley over at first base. But I think with Bradley Zimmer too, you mentioned the inconsistency, the weak at bats. I think that's my biggest concern with Bradley Zimmer. He's 29 years old. We've been doing this with him since 2017. And, when he first came up, he showed so much promise. I remember my mom's like, oh my God, he looks like a young Joe DiMaggio out there. He was just flying into walls, running all over the place, hitting for power. And we're like, we might really have our center field prospect, because you remember they traded Clint Frazier over to the Yankees in that Andrew Miller deal. And I remember at the time it was a big debate. Do we give up Zimmer? Do we give up Clint Frazier? And everything Clint Frazier, has been going through with the Yankees with like the vertigo and the vision issues, which is scary stuff, it made us think, all right, maybe Zimmer can still be that guy. And we did see that guy. He did have his power spurts, but I think his biggest issue is just going to be, can he stay on the field? As far as like who he is at the plate, he might just be who he is. He hits for some power, strikes out a ton, but you know what? He's really fast and he's going to play outstanding defense. I think he's the perfect candidate, like one of the best fourth outfielders you could ask for. Think if it's a tight game, 7th, 8th inning, you need a pinch runner, he's your guy. You need a defensive replacement for Josh Naylor, who may not be as quick on his feet out there. Zimmer's your guy, because you might get lucky too and get a home run off his bat. You just don't know. Even at 29 years old, he's still kind of a question mark for me. But I definitely, I don't know about keeping him and Mercado on the roster. And I know Mercado didn't really play right field, but I just think as far as like an ideal fourth outfielder, I would definitely choose Zimmer over Mercado. I think he just brings a little bit more of the intangible stuff to the plate. There's a little more potential there, but I wouldn't like to see him every day out in right field. I just don't think that's really setting him up for success. It might, help his durability a little bit if, he could come off the bench and, it might preserve him, a little better through the 162 game season. What do you think, Max?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen some exciting moments out of Bradley Zimmer, the balls that seem uncatchable and he comes out of nowhere, just given that speed that he has. He's turned doubles into triples in a blink of an eye. And obviously he can stretch the the single. He's quick enough, depending on the hit placement, to get over to second base. So one of the things that stands out to the most to me when it comes to Bradley Zimmer is the defense. I just mentioned how he can cover the field, but also people don't really value that arm strength as much as they should. I think you and I have both seen him just unload absolute cannons to Roberto Perez at the plate, or Austin Hedges, whoever it may be. But just to be able to get the ball over accurately with that much power, he's putting up high 90s, low 100s on unloading that baseball to home plate, and it's something that he needs to keep the good times rolling when it comes to that style of play, just making the plays when he can. That'll keep him on the roster longer. But obviously he needs to improve at the plate. He only batted .227 with 8 home runs, 35 RBIs. He did have 15 steals, but 299 at bats. So you got to get more quality coming up to the plate as an everyday player.
If he could get on base, he's going to steal. That's the thing with him. Like you said, he had over 200 at bats, but think if he were to cut some of those strikeouts down into even just an infield single. I know we saw him bunt a little bit, try to get on base, but just like Miles Straw, if you could just get him on base, he's immediately going to make a pitcher nervous. And that, you can knock a pitcher right off his game once you get a guy with some speed on.
And he's a guy at the bottom of the lineup as well. You're not going to see him 1 through 6. I mean, 6 tops, but he's a guy that can really anchor that bottom part of the lineup to make room for the Miles Straw, Ahmed Rosario, Franmil Reyes, Jose Ramirez, right? If he can find himself on base to start the inning, he might find himself crossing the plate to score a run. So it's just about him getting on base. He had a huge strikeout rate last year, 41%. So that's 122 strikeouts and 299 at bats. So and he only had 30 walks. Not going to cut it, especially in the major leagues. I mean, and especially with this team, if we're looking to compete, we don't really have the massive signings, right, that you see all across the leagues. You're going to need that production out of every single man in your roster. And if we
rely on our bench, we need that depth.
Yeah, if you're striking out more than almost 50% of your at bats, that's it's not really acceptable. So he's got to get a better eye at the plate. Has to hit the off speed a little bit better. So
his WAR had to be abysmal. I'm gonna pull it up. Yeah, he had a 1.2 WAR, which is like far below major league average. So at least he's not negative, but he's pretty close. He's not really giving you much when he's out there. Granted, his defense does make up for a little bit of that. It adds to that value a little bit. But yeah, if he could just improve that plate discipline a little bit, I think he'd be perfect as a 4th outfielder. I would be completely content with him, in that role.
Yeah. And look, another year older, another year worth of experience under his belt. May not have been the best season for him last year, but all the doors are open this year. An exciting new start for the franchise with the whole name change. And we're going to, possibly, we just had this minority ownership deal done. So we're seeing new things happening in Cleveland, and hopefully he could be a part of it. It's so long as he fixes himself up on the field. But, if that doesn't work out, we're going to need somebody to man the front with Josh Naylor here. So we did a little speaking this week, got some hot stove, some free agent signings that are a possibility for the off season. Tell us who's on your radar, Mel. Who do you think can possibly come our way here in the off season?
So as far as free agency goes, I think probably the most notable guy still remaining for right field would be Michael Conforto, who, has been with the New York Mets. He did turn down an $18.4 million qualifying offer from the Mets. So that leads some to believe he may be seeking a multi-year deal. He had kind of a down year in 2021. He only hit .232. He did have 14 home runs and 55 RBIs, only a 21.7% K rate. So that cut Zimmer's in half right there. But he's been in the league 7 years, and he had a 4-year run of really strong play from 2017 to 2020. And to show that his 162 game average for his career is a 255 average with 28 home runs and 85 RBIs. So that's like add up his whole career, divide it out. That's what we're getting as like an average Michael Conforto year. He was an all-star in 2017, where he hit 279 with 27 homers and 68 RBIs. So we see, the potential's there. He's got it in him. He has a 98% fielding percentage. So I put him in my all-star out there. That's going to be a really good right half year outfield. But he has one trait that the Guardians love, and we've talked about it with Tyler Freeman and Brian Rocchio coming through the system, but he has great plate discipline and he makes strong contact. Those are two things the Guardians love to see in hitters. Hitters they seek and hitters they develop within their own organization. The only thing is that would be the money. I mentioned he turned down that qualifying offer, and he is represented by Scott Boras. So we know how Scott Boras clients, tend to price themselves right out of our market. MLB trade rumors predicted a 1-year deal in like the $20 million range. It's kind of, he could have a bounce back year. That's why I kind of expected him to take a 1-year deal somewhere so he could bounce back from 2021 and retest the market. But it's looking like he might want a 2 or 3 year deal. So we'll have to see how that plays out post lockout. But, with the Guardians, they really only need kind of a stopgap until George Valera is ready. They don't need to go crazy and sign anybody to a long-term deal because they do have, one of their top guys on the way, which, is definitely promising.
Yeah. I mean, it could be kind of a deal that we saw with Cesar Hernandez, spend a little bit over a season's worth of time with us. And, you did your part. Maybe we can get something in return for you at some point. But you mentioned, George Valera could be seen towards the end of this year's season or possibly early on next year. So we have the future. I wouldn't say obviously nothing is locked down, but he's definitely our top prospect for the position in the next few years. But moving on with who we can possibly find ourselves landing here in the offseason, Ian Happ, maybe a trade, including Wilson Contreras here. So only played 16 games in right field last season, but, he is a utility fielder. He can absolutely play the position. So in 2021, he averaged 25 home runs, 66 RBIs here, 27 years old, and he's under control for 2 more seasons, barring any more changes to the CBA. So it's sort of a realistic option for the Guardians here. Obviously, I would personally like to see someone like Michael Conforto, but if we can land Ian Happ and Wilson Contreras in the same trade, that's obviously nothing that I would shy away from. Mel, so what are your thoughts on a possible Ian Happ acquisition?
I agree with you. I think if he was coming over as part of a bigger deal with Wilson Contreras, where they were able to address a couple positions, a couple areas of need in the same deal, I would be all for that. But I think if it were just him alone, I would definitely, look to guys like Conforto and, some other options ahead of him. He's a little streaky. He's another one. He's got some consistency issues. He's a switch hitter, but, he really should be a left-handed hitter just the way his splits are. But, 27 years old. So, he's still young enough. He could have something in the tank. But, I agree with you. I think other guys probably fill the need a little bit better. But, not a bad option if they're looking trade.
Right. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. Obviously, we're going to have a little bit more aggression when it comes to the trading. Once we can actually resume that,
it's going to be fascinating when it does happen. It's going to be mass chaos.
A ton of material in a little bit of time. So everybody better buckle up for what, hopefully we have to come here in the next few weeks to a month. So
hopefully soon.
Yeah. Hopefully sooner rather than later. I mean, we've always been saying, but another realistic option, at least in the free agency market, would be Tommy Pham. So he's 33 years old. As you mentioned before, he could be like a stopgap to George Valera. In 2021, he batted .229, 15 home runs, 49 RBIs. But in 2022, it could be an expected bounce back year for him because he hit a little bad luck in 2021. But should come back fairly quick after a couple years in San Diego, some downtime here in the off season. So, I mean, we'll see. It's definitely an option for us to look at. Look, I think the course of action here that we can both agree on is that we need a stopgap, right? I mean, it's either the guys that we have on the roster now or just a guy that's going to be spending a year to a year and a half with the organization before we fill him with our long-term option. But what are your thoughts on Tommy Pham? What do you think?
I think Tommy Pham has the Guardians written all over him. He just seems like that type of guy, like kind of an older veteran, kind of like the bargain bin. He's a little older, so teams shy away from him. But, here comes the Dolans and Chris Antonetti. Like, I might have something here. Like, this might be that diamond in the rough. They tried it with Ben Gamble last year, as we know that didn't really work out too well. But even before that, they had the years with Juan Uribe. They try to get these guys kind of when it's like, let's see if they have anything left in the tank, right? So, I could see him doing something like that, just knowing, all right, we got some help coming in 23, maybe even late 2022, honestly, just depending how George Valera's season shakes out. But Tommy Pham's definitely a guy, like, if you just need to fill a need short-term wise, it depends how you upgrade the other positions too. If you kind of upgrade some other areas, you won't need huge production, out of right field. So, he could be a guy that could come in and fill a need. Nothing like he's not going to be the sexy pick that anyone's going to get excited and go buy tickets for, but he's a need filler, I guess we'll call him.
Yeah, just someone to fill the spot when it needs to, the job needs to get done. But hopefully, it doesn't come down to it. Hopefully Bradley Zimmer has a great spring training should he have enough time to develop there a little more. But hopefully Josh Naylor and Bradley Zimmer are the answer this year and, possibly for a couple years to come while George Valera is obviously improving in his career in the minors. So
this is when I wish that Josh Naylor was right-handed. Because think about it, Zimmer's left-handed in right field. Bobby Bradley's left-handed at first base. If Naylor was right-handed, he could kind of be in a platoon situation either place, but it's like they're left-handed heavy in those areas.
Yeah.
But that, that'd be nice.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess we'll just have to see, time is ticking, and I'm sure that guys like Bradley Zimmer are going to be on a shorter type of leash. So if we can make a move, I'm obviously happy with it. And we know what we've got in Bradley Zimmer. Hopefully we can get a little bit more out of him this season, but you kind of see that he's not going to be that all-star type of caliber player, but hopefully he gets the
injuries,
job done.
Man.
Yeah, hopefully he can.
I thought he could have been. Grady Sizemore too. It's like injuries can just derail a career.
Yeah, definitely.
It sucks to see.
Yeah, but we can dream a little bit. We can dream. This is obviously probably the most highly regarded free agent right fielder out there at the moment. So it's Nick Cassianos. He's got a projected market value of $21 million per year. So that is $3 million more than Michael Conforto's rejected offer from the Mets. So it's wow. It's and
he does want multi-years for sure.
Yeah. So
he's gonna ride off into the sunset with a nice 4-year deal.
If we want to make Jose Ramirez and Nick Castellanos our future guys and just get rid of everyone else,
I'm here for it.
Yeah, I guess so. But,
I would not complain.
Yeah, obviously money's the issue, but in 2021, he batted .309 with 34 home runs and 100 RBIs. So definitely an all-star type of season. Would be nice to have this sort of production in the middle of the lineup. You put him right in the middle of like Jose Ramirez and Franmil Reyes, and that 1 through 5 is unstoppable. Wow. So that's obviously where you would find most of the production would be at the plate. But the Guardians don't really need to spend this much on a long-term deal for Castellanos when we've been talking about it. They have George Valera waiting in the wings. So, I mean, look, we all want to have him. you can't have everything. So
Resign Jose if you want to spend all that is how I feel.
Exactly.
Right.
I'd much rather have Jose than Nick Castellanos for the next 5 to 7 years. But like I was saying, we can all dream at one point. But we did bring up George Valera a lot of times throughout this podcast. He's definitely the future of that right field position. But Mel, you're our minor league expert here. I want you to delve more into his career and why should we should be excited for the next couple seasons before he arrives.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, we've talked about him before because he's just that good. You can't really take one episode. Him and Brian Rocchio are going to kind of be the face of this organization for hopefully the next 5 to 10 years once they get here. But George Valera also signed as an international free agent in 2017, and scouts say he might have the best swing in the whole organization. It's just so easy and natural to him. He's only 21 years old. He played at Lake County in Akron last season, where he hit 260 with 19 home runs and 65 RBIs. He moved up to Akron. He struggled a little bit with the off-speed pitches, but again, the jump, the pitching's a lot better at AA than it is at high A. So, he still worked walks. He's he's patient. He recognizes pitches well, which is surprising for a guy his age. He has good command of the strike zone, and he makes hard contacts to all fields. He's not just a pull happy guy. He makes hard contact and he gets rewarded. Some balls go over the fence. And when they do, he has the best bat flip in the whole organization. If you haven't seen him yet, search Twitter, from over the summer. This dude loves playing the game of baseball. He's enthusiastic. He's fiery. He's a goofball, and he's just an overall good guy. Like, he's bilingual. He translates for a lot of his Spanish speaking teammates, which I just think is cool. He doesn't get paid extra to do that. That's just him being a good guy. He has the skill set to be a consistent 300 plus hitter, 25 plus home runs in the majors, like consistently. He's still working on his defense in right field. He'll be all right. He's got average arm strength, but it'll come. He's not going to hurt us. He may not be a Gold Glove winner, but he's not going to kill us out there, especially if he's hitting 300 with 25 home runs. I don't think anyone's going to get too worked up about his defense. But yeah, he played winter league ball too. So he's been playing baseball all winter. Dude loves the game. He didn't even want to put it down for the off season. So it's just cool when you see guys just putting in so much work on their craft and seeing them get rewarded for it and make it to the big leagues. And they're just amped up for it. He did an interview. It's out there on Twitter somewhere, but we oh my God, George Valera, everyone gets so hyped up talking about George Valera. And he was so nervous doing this interview. He's a humble guy. He's got this humble brag in him, but it's a confidence. And he's got the makings to be a star. By just the looks of it, only being 21 years old, to me, it just feels like he has that it factor. He just won a championship with Akron. Rocchio just won the championship with Akron. People may look oh, it's just the AA play, come on, but it's given these guys experience and being in a winning atmosphere. And to them, that was everything to them. That's the only championship they could contribute to winning last season. And you know what? They got the job done, and that's valuable. You could carry that with you, that
Definitely.
Winning mentality.
It builds character that will certainly pay off once you reach the major leagues. It's not an easy thing reaching this level of ball. I don't know if people really understand. You have to battle your way through 3 to 5 different leagues before you even get a shot at Progressive Field. So to do everything right at the level you're playing at, to win a championship for Akron, he's doing his job, and that's something you want to see as he moves forward with his career. And it's something that, Mel and I are certainly excited about to arrive here in Cleveland over the next few years. But wanted to thank everybody for joining us here tonight. It's always a pleasure joining you guys every week. But just to mention again, where we've started our sponsorship packages here up at Believeland Media on Twitter for inquiries on our advertising packages, at Guardians OTCLE, Guardians of the CLE, or at Mello_NIE 91, Mel Kirby, or myself at Maxwell G24. So, keep coming to us every single week for this podcast. We love doing it for you guys. But Mel, take it away and send us off into next week.
Yeah, I want to thank everybody for listening here tonight and for the continued support. We're inching closer to 200 downloads a month. So keep liking, keep sharing, keep subscribing, leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. And, until next week, everybody just pray for the game of baseball, man. I don't know, baseball, Rob Manfred, the owners, they're just not really negotiating in good faith right now. They got the players kind of backed into a corner. And just think about all the young, incredible talent we have throughout the game of baseball, not just within the Guardians, but the whole game. We just want to watch those guys play baseball. So, we're, of course, going to be, paying close attention to any lockout developments over the next week until we talk to you guys next Monday. So let's just hope for the best. Let's hope this isn't too much longer. Like Max said, give us a follow. Head over to our website, believelandmediallc.com. Check out our written content on all major sports, especially the Cleveland sports. And until next Monday, everybody stay safe, stay healthy, and pray for baseball.